Welcome back in, guys, to the King Josiah TV podcast, where the show was created to educate, promote, and influence the kingdom of Jesus Christ in this world. If you're listening, guys, on YouTube, do me a favor. Go ahead and smash the subscribe button before we get started. Go ahead and give me a like. If you're listening audibly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that follow button before we get into it, guys. But let's go ahead and jump into today's show.
Flexing my God and all of his authority. Practice was preaching purity, priority. Can't conform to it even if majority choose to go that way. God has been restoring me. They grilling the boy cause I won't let them George forming me. Try to put me in a box, I got off the ropes, I won't let them corner me. God has been warning me, telling me, tell his people ain't no room for lukewarming me. Order me, Lord it be, yo will it never was mine. Like Amazon Prime, his turnaround time around prayer.
All right, guys. So we're going to get into the biggest thing that I feel like one of the biggest things that's been talked about in the Christian community. And it's gone way past the Christian community. It's gone into every part of media has been talking about it. Marvin Sapp and Lock the Doors. You've all heard about it. You've all heard the story. I'm not going to rehearse the whole thing. We all know pretty much what happened. He was recently, or I think this happened about a year ago, supposedly from what he says. A year ago, he was in a church conference, was not supposedly his home church. And in this environment, he told the ushers to shut the doors. Let me quote him right. He didn't say lock the doors. He said, shut the doors. I had an interesting perspective on this. Because when this first came out, that's the first thing you see is he told the ushers to shut the doors until he got $40,000 or raise $40,000 from online people and people in the service, and wanted them to give 20 and wanted to literally see their faces give that. So it initially, my first thought, like everybody else, you jump to your conclusions and thought patterns on that, like what the heck are you doing, which I don't agree with what he did and how he took that. But when I got an interesting perspective, which we're going to get in here in a moment, from one of his church members, and then as well his apology, or it wasn't really apology, but his statements afterwards really kind of give you a full rounded perspective on what occurred and how he conducts himself. So I'm going to let we're going to play the initial. I know a lot of you have already seen this stuff, but we're going to play.
There's 1,000 of you. I said, close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. It's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000 tonight. Now, everyone up here, we've all sold and seeded, but I need everyone standing up here with us, with me, to plant a seed of $100.
I don't know if Worky watch, you won't see just yet in the clip, but he's got Passion Java on the stage, which is a known fake prophet that has gotten money out of people as well. You know what I mean? Birds of a flock, they say, are together. Now, before we get too deep into this, guys, I've been going to church since I was a kid. And yes, I will say that there are certain times during church where you are not supposed to move and those sort of things. And so I have been in church environments where as soon as they talk about giving, everybody gets up and walks out. Everybody takes that as an opportunity to leave, which is disrespectful because there's money moving around. You shouldn't be getting up and moving. That's not your time to leave and take your exit out early out of this church service. But that was my first thought. But let's let him finish, and we're going to get into what one of his people that go to his congregation said, and it kind of sheds some light on how this looks.
Because again, it costs to sit up here. And this is what I need you to do. If you're giving electronically, or even if you're giving tangibly, I'm going to have y'all come to the altar and give it, because I need to see 1,000 people moving. Bring them baskets. I want the baskets up here. I want to see the folk. Y'all start moving. Y'all can bring it right now. Come. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people online need to give $20.
And that's my thing is people should be able to freely give. This shouldn't be a thing where you need to see their face. This is between them and God. Your offering is between you and God. It's not a public display. Even in the Bible, in the verse, I think it was in Matthew, where Jesus was seeing the widow came up and she gave her last, and all the rich people were given the amount of money that they have. And he said her offering was great, was the greatest because she gave her last. And again, it's a private thing between you and God if you decide to give. I do believe that is a private thing. And so to ostracize people out and make people feel bad that aren't offering, and even in this thing, he said you can't leave until you give in the offering, then the ushers can let you out. That's again, you're putting pressure on people and you're making it a pressure thing and you're making it a humility thing if people aren't giving. What if somebody didn't have $20? What if that's the $20 they had to pay their light bill? And you're saying that they need to give $40 to support your ministry. You guys should have whatever ministry you had going on, whatever, let's say ticket sales, whatever you guys are doing to support all these even gentlemen you had on stage, which is a lot of individuals. This should have been planned out financially ahead of time instead of trying to gouge $40,000 out of people. To me, is asinine.
This is easy, saints.
So easy for a pastor that runs around in Gucci and Fendi. I know he's got his music career and all that, but I've had a personal experience with pastors that are music singers and stuff like that, and I don't. But I'm not saying they can't, but I've just not seen it where people that are musicians and pastors that they tend to fare well. I just feel like it's too murky. There's a lot of them have one hand in the world and one hand in the church, and it just they're not good at leveling them. But I wanted to bring up some perspective of a young girl that goes to their congregation, and she kind of talked about how at Marvin Sapp's church that she's been going there. I guess she's a new member, I think, over the last year or two. And when she's been going there, they have about 3 different times that they give during service. And even this her service that we just saw, there was 3 different offerings. This was the last one. So he's demanding this $20. And so he's obviously has a culture even in his own church because he tries to say that this is the only time that this happened and this is just a special conference and they had to raise money and these sort of things to support that. But coming from his members, it's a regular thing that they pressure people. This girl that we're about to listen to talks about she even had COVID and they got to the point to where they were aggressively telling her she has to pay her tithes or she's going to be kicked out of the church. So let's let what this girl says. It brings some perspective.
So after that, I ended up getting
Sorry, guys, I'm pull this back. Pull this back a little bit.
I started a service. They pass in the offering tray, and then at the end of service, they pass in the offering tray. Then they want you to pay your tithes, and then on top of that, he wants you to buy his books.
This is what I'm talking about. You had these pastors coming here that are musicians. They use their church congregation to profit off of their music career and sell their musical items, their books, and all this sort of things. Because people are fans of them. They're so big. People like Marvin Sapp and these other pastors that are music musicians that travel the world. They know people know about them. They're gonna come there and buy their items and their goods. And then you're having, like she said, multiple offerings during service. This is a money grab at this point.
So I'm like, that's too much. Like normally I give a set amount when I go to church. I already have it figured out how much I'm gonna give for tithes and offerings. So I ended up joining the church. Okay. So after that, I ended up getting into a car wreck after I joined, and I started having COVID. I ended up getting COVID 2 times, and so they would send me emails like, "Hey, how you doing, Miss Peoples? We just checking in on you. Don't forget, you got a congregation over here. Come out whenever you can." And I'm like, I'll come out whenever I feel better. I'm just right now. I'm at war with myself. I'm going through a spiritual warfare. I'm just trying to find my own relationship with God and just trying to seek His love. And so they understood basically, but they still reach out. They still send you emails. They send you cards in the mail. So I was like, okay, I love this church because they just love me. So the last card they sent me basically was saying that I still got to pay my tithes. Like it doesn't matter if I attend church or not, my tithes got to be paid. And then how I grew up in Pentecostal.
Like, and somebody gives their tithes, again, this should come from their heart. This should not be a thing where if someone doesn't show up, they don't show their tithes, that all of a sudden you're pressuring them like a bill collector. If God puts it on their heart to give, like she said, that should be something that God puts on your heart and you do. That's between you and God. Your church can check on you, see how you're doing, but they should not be pressuring you to give. They don't know your financial situation, what you're going through. If God puts on that person's heart to give out of whatever case, that's between them and God. That's not something personal, because you asking them for the money, at this point, you seem like you're trying to fill your pockets. You're trying to fill, financial quotas and things that you guys got to get with paying people out, which I understand. Church, in a sense, is a business. I get it. You got things you got to pay, mortgage, light bills, sort of things like that. But again, the church should not be such a thing where people feel pressured. People feel bad if they're not giving. That's not okay. I'm gonna skip forward just a tag, guys, and let her finish.
Like, they started threatening me to freaking pay the tithes, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna pay the tithes when I get the money. Like right now, I
Right,
don't
right.
have the money. I'm struggling. Like, come on now. So I ended up reaching out to one of the members and like, I need to know who's responsible for sending the cards out, because like I keep getting freaking cards in the mail, and this last card is kind of disturbing because it's like y'all threatening me, telling me, hey, you need to pay these tithes or you will no longer be a member. Like we gonna cash you out or something. Like I don't know. And she was like, oh no, you might have took it the wrong way, or she was like, send me a screenshot picture of.
No, you took it the right way. You took it the right way. He obviously, this is a regular thing that Marvin Sapp does. He's used to having a church environment where he controls it in such a way where he's used to getting multiple offerings. The church environment that he's created, people, they're demanded to tithe. It's not optional. It's not something that they do freely out of their hearts. It is a mandatory thing that they must do. Now, if God, between you and God, you have that discussion, and between you and God, you do that, that's fine. And God gives places in your heart what he wants you to give. But if you're having to give 3 and 4 times during a service, that's not tithe and offering or anything. That's literally a money grab at that point.
the card to me, and I'm like, okay. So this past weekend, I reached out to one of the members. I'm like, hey, I might just come out this weekend. It's been a long journey. I feel refreshed, and I feel like it's time for me to get back in my word. They said, okay, understandable. We'll see you, when you come out. So I ended up waking up at about service.
Well,
They
anyway,
passed in the offering tray, and then at the end of service, they passed in the offering.
this that girl, she pretty much finishes up and talks about getting into that she wasn't actually at that service that occurred, didn't actually show up. But to me, they gave more perspective of the church environment. And then lastly, guys, we're going to get into some scripture, and as well Marvin Sapp, what he had to say after all this stuff came out. He was on the Ricky Smiley morning show and gave his explanation. I'm not going to say apology because he didn't apologize. He was defending it, but let's let him talk for himself.
Last year, this was a service that happened last August. Number two, it didn't happen at my local church. It actually happened at a national organization's international meeting where churches from all over the country, all over the world came together for the purpose of celebrating the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. People took issue with me saying, shut the doors. Understand, I never said lock the doors. Yeah. I said shut the doors. Shutting doors mean that people still have the ability to go in and out. They've taken issue with my tone, and
I don't think people have an issue with, and he's trying to get stuck on that gives him a free pass because he didn't say lock the doors. That doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't put pressure on people to give, and that's the issue. That's what people's issue is if you are pressuring people to give when you say shut the doors. We put the offering baskets at the front. I want to see every last one of your faces to make sure all of you donate, all of you give an offering of $20, and then ushers, you can let them out. There's no type of verbiage or way you can spin that. That's not pressure. You didn't have to lock the doors for it to be exactly what it was.
I can honestly say, looking at the video, maybe I was a little more assertive than I should have been. And I can apologize for that. I can apologize. The $40,000, if it was $40,000 that was raised, was never given to me. That money was raised for the purpose of taking care of the budget for their conference, not Marvin Sapp.
That's not the issue. And I don't think anybody had an issue with that you were pocketing all the money. I've seen no one saying that he had pocketed the money that night. It's again goes back to the issue of you pressuring people, and again it appears and it looks like, and it was, again, you got multiple offerings, which multiple people have said there was multiple offerings that night. You and all those other ministers, at the end of the day, you were hustling those people. And again, if those people decided to do that, that's on them. If they wanted to support that and do that, that's cool. But if you get to the point where you're like, I want to see your faces, and you can't leave until you do it, you're hustling people. You're strong arming people. There's no other way to spin it.
Number two, it didn't happen at my church. It happened in Baltimore.
Doesn't matter
number
where
three,
it happened.
People take issue with me being firm with the ushers. Anybody that goes to church, ushers one-on-one, that's the first thing they teach you as being an usher, is that there are 3 times you don't walk. You don't walk during the altar call. You don't walk during prayer. You don't walk during the offering. One of the reasons being is because of...
Now, this part, I will be level. I do agree. In church culture, in the church, it is disrespectful to watch during prayer, during altar call, and during praise and during offering time. He's 100% right. That's definitely true, and that is something that occurs in church. But the way, again, that he did it, again, it was something, again, he put pressure on these people to give, especially when this was not the first offering of this service.
The sacredness of the moment. But it's also about security. As a pastor, we understand and we know that churches are being robbed at gunpoint. It's happening all over the country. This is not something I'm making up. This is factual. The reason why I'm here is because what has happened is...
I'm sorry, I don't think he was scared of being held at gunpoint, or he wouldn't have told them to lock the doors. That wasn't why you told them to lock the doors or shut the doors. I'm sorry, I keep misquoting you, Marvin. That wasn't why you told them to shut the doors, because you were scared and for security purposes. You were making sure that the people knew you were serious about giving at that point in time. Let's be honest. Don't act like you were scared for your life.
People have taken clickbait and made something out of it that it isn't. And because of that, my church has been getting phone calls. People have called my church and cussed me out. My staff are afraid because I've received death threats over $20 and shut the door. People have come to our camp.
Because it's not right. And now I don't agree with it. This part is wrong. If you're going to the extent where you're sending death threats, you're threatening his church, you're saying things to them that are that aggressive, that's 130% wrong. I would never condone that. But 2 wrongs don't make a right. And I don't think necessarily that what was being said and came to light isn't something that came to light on accident or by happenstance. I do believe that God allowed this to come out. There's a lot of pastors. He's not the only one, but there's a lot of pastors that their services are like this. This was why, and this is what I want to bring this to. He kind of just finishes with a little extra finishing up with what he says, but he's not getting into anything deep. He's just getting into the things that happen at the church. But what this reminded me of was when Jesus said they've turned back, I think it was in Luke 19:45. We're actually going to read that here in a second, where Jesus said they've turned the house of God into a den of thieves. When people come to church and they feel like that they are being hustled, with multiple times being pressured to give, church should not be like that. People should be giving out of their heart. People should be giving out what God places on their heart, the convictions that God places into them to give to the local ministry, to invest, to serve. These should be things that should not be pressured and feel like, oh, this is a heaven or hell issue. This is something that, again, should be come from them, that the Holy Spirit puts on them to give. So let's just read out of this, because I think this brings this all kind of full circle. When Jesus entered the temple courts, he began to drive out those who were selling. You got pastors now that are selling books, selling all their little trinkets and these seminars and all these sort of things. They're selling these on the pulpit, using this as their time to sell their products and their things. It is written, he said to them, my house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers. Every day he is teaching at the temple, but the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the leaders among the people were trying to kill him. Yet they could not find a way to do it because the people hung on to his words. And really, we want to stick on Luke 45. That's really where the main focal point is, that he began to drive those out who were selling. He said, it's written that you will turn the house of prayer into a house of, or den of thieves or robbers. And I think that's what the church has came into, and that's why the outrage has happened, Marvin Sapp. That's why it's gotten to the point where people are so frustrated, because the world is seeing the church as what it truly is. People are seeing the true colors. That's why they're frustrated. That's why they're mad. They're not coming at Marvin Sapp this way out of happenstance, or this is the first occurrence. This has been happening for a while. And so that's why a lot of people have this view of church, and we need to get back to the church of God should be, again, a house of prayer, a hospital. It should never be viewed as a place where people feel like they're being hustled. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's podcast. This is episode 35 of the King Josiah TV podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for sticking along. We're going to keep